Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. We are proudly part of the Believe Podcast Network. We're presented to you by FanDuel. New customers to FanDuel can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. Okay, so Charlie Morton is back. The Atlanta blasted him on Saturday in Detroit, right? He had signed with the Orioles in free agency and was traded to the Tigers at the trade deadline. And they obliterated him. And it was so bad that on Sunday, the Tigers designated him for assignment to have his roster spot back. Atlanta tagged him for 6 runs on 5 hits and 2 walks in 1 1/3 innings. He recorded 1 out in the 2nd inning. Pushed his ERA for the season to 5.89, but his ERA with Detroit to 7.09 in 9 starts and 39 innings. So they designated him for assignment on Sunday morning, and then Sunday night just went ahead and released him. Like, they didn't even bother to wait for waivers to run. They just released him. We heard from Brian Snitker, and then the organization confirmed it. The Braves signed him to a deal on Monday. It is a major league deal. He will be in the majors. They went ahead and did the roster move on Monday. So he is on the active roster, but he's not yet reported to the team. He won't report till Tuesday. And so because he hasn't reported, they don't know what his role is going to be. Snit said, we don't know what we're going to do. Are they going to start him? Does he get a start over the weekend? Does he start on Saturday or Sunday or whatever? If he starts on Sunday, that means you probably don't get Chris Sale. Because I think Chris Sale would line up to make one more start to end the year. Maybe you end up using Charlie Morton in relief of Chris Sale. Who knows? Maybe you start him on Saturday. If you start him, you probably end up either skipping Strider or skipping Sale. You can't skip anybody else because of the time, right? You don't have enough time to get any of these guys back to their normal days of rest, unless you wanted to use Morton on like Friday and skip somebody else. But the Braves handled this wrong because the roster move that they made to add Charlie Morton was optioning Jhancarlos Lara down to Gwinnett. And Gwinnett's season's over. He's not going to pitch. Their season's over. But this is really frustrating for a couple reasons, I think. The first one that is frustrating is the Braves voluntarily played a man down on Monday. They made the full roster move on Monday. They optioned Lara down to Gwinnett to put Charlie Morton on the roster, even though he hadn't reported yet. And what's really frustrating about that is they called Lara up on Friday. He was in Detroit for all 3 games. He never got into a game. And if he had got into a game, it was going to be his major league debut. To the point where his parents flew in from the Dominican Republic. It was their first ever trip to the United States. They didn't come to Atlanta. They went to Detroit. They sat in Detroit for 3 days and went to some baseball games, and he didn't play. And I'm assuming that they went home. I don't know. Maybe they went back to Atlanta and they're now in Atlanta, wherever he is staying. I don't know. But the point is, Atlanta, even with a 6-run lead going into the 9th inning on Sunday, Atlanta could not find a way to get Jhancarlos Lara into the game. And then, rather than give him a chance to pitch in what ended up being a blowout on Monday, instead, they decided to be a man short rather than give him an opportunity to pitch. It's an unforced error. There was no reason that maybe there was. There's no reason that we know of to make the roster move on Monday instead of Tuesday. And this sounds terrible. I don't mean this the way it sounds. What if Charlie Morton gets hit by a bus on Tuesday morning? He's already on the roster. Now you got to put him on the IL and you got to pay him and all of that stuff. Like, why? Why did they go ahead and make the move on Monday instead of just waiting until Morton actually got to the ballpark and reported and was available for a game? This is an unforced error, and the Braves have done this a couple times now. There's a couple ways that they've gotten things wrong, and it's business decisions, it's roster decisions. It's really annoying. Craig Kimbrell. They signed Craig Kimbrell in mid-March. He voluntarily agrees to stay in the minors until he was ready. They kept him down there for 6 weeks. He was in the minor leagues for 6 weeks, and we got the reporting, he called Alex Anthopoulos after I think it was like 3 weeks or whatever, and said, hey, I'm ready. And they said, okay, great. And then they just didn't use him for a couple weeks. When they finally used him, he had pitched like twice in the week for Gwinnett. They fly him all the way across country to San Francisco on like Friday morning. He gets into the game Friday night. He doesn't look great. He puts up a 0, but he doesn't look great. Like, he gets a caught stealing from Sean Murphy. He gets a pick off to work around a walk in a soft single that he gave up. And then on Saturday, they DFA him. 1 scoreless inning and gone on the road. No welcome to the jungle in Atlanta. No taking the mound in Truist Park. Just the 1 road inning, plane ticket out of town. Eddie Rosario. Another situation where, do you remember this whole thing? They're playing the Cincinnati Reds on May 7th. They're down by 1. 2 outs. Michael Harris is on first base. And instead of letting Eli White hit, who at the time was a regular and was one of the better hitters on the team when this happened, like in the 12 games before that day, Eli White was hitting .326. He was 15 of 46. He had 2 homers. He had 10 runs. He had 8 RBI. Like, he was one of the more consistent hitters on the team, and he was starting almost every single day. Matter of fact, he was 1 for 4 with a double in that game. And what did they do? They pinch hit Eddie Rosario. Snit said afterwards, quote, I thought maybe Eddie could recreate some old magic. But like, they're just getting the simple stuff wrong. There's no reason not to let Jhancarlos Lara pitch before you send him down. There's no reason to intentionally be a man down on Monday when you can let him pitch and then option him down, right? There's no reason to force Eddie Rosario into a game when he's barely played this season and he's been awful while he did it, just for him to strike out in 4 pitches, right? There's no reason to call up Craig Kimbrell, use him in 1 inning, DFA him before he ever gets a chance to pitch in Atlanta, and piss off the Triple-A clubhouse while you're doing it. There's no reason to do it. We got quotes on this. We got quotes from James McCann. And, quote, that really frustrated me and a lot of the guys in our locker room, the Gwinnett locker room, were very frustrated with it. It was strange to call him up for a day and DFA him. He's not just a run-of-the-mill reliever who became a journeyman after 2 or 3 years in the big leagues. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's right. Atlanta's just botched these little simple things. And it's not just roster decisions or playing time decisions. Do you remember when they announced the Pennant Park acquisition? It was the same day that they were 0-6 and about to get walked off by the Dodgers to go 0-7 on their season opening road trip. Do you remember the whole controversy about A-list membership prices significantly going a massive jump up in the middle of a losing season? What I don't understand is every single person watching this, listening to this, reading the content over at Braves Today, every single one of us knows Atlanta's not going to be the high bidder on a marquee free agent. They're not. They may be in the ballpark. They're not going to be the high bidder. What Atlanta's banking on, and we have confirmation, like Ha-Seong Kim, AA has directly acknowledged this, is we want to get him in the clubhouse. We feel like our clubhouse, our culture is an asset. The ballpark is an asset. The fan base is an asset. The area is an asset. You can't make that argument that, hey, we are a great place to come play. Your family's going to love it here. You're going to love it here. You're going to love the guys in the room. You're going to love all of that stuff. When you screw up simple things like this, if you're legitimately going to be that team, the team that says, hey, we may not be offering you the most money, but we have a great clubhouse with a lot of dudes who are very talented, who want to win. Everybody in there has bought into the team concept that we're selling. Everybody in there has a financial cap on what they're earning. Nobody's earning 30, 35 million a year. The most anybody in that room is making is 22. We want to pay you 22 to be in that room and do everything that they're doing. You can't do that with one hand and with the other screw up the simple stuff. You can't DFA Craig Kimbrell after one appearance without him ever pitching at home. You can't grab the desiccated corpse of Eddie Rosario off waivers and throw him into the ninth inning of a one-run game. You can't call up Jhancarlos Lara, fly his family from the Dominican Republic, and then not put him into a game and then send him down when the guy who's taking his roster spot is not physically in the city yet. This is not hard. And it's the stupidest thing. I should not be talking about this for 10 minutes. It's stupid. But this is what they've done. And you have to understand, if you want to be successful with we're never going to be the high bidder, but we're going to be a great place to play, you have to nail everything else. You have to nail the theme nights. You have to nail how you treat the family. You have to nail the prospect stuff. You have to nail the promotions. You have to nail everything else, and they're not doing it.